Hey guys, this is Elysium. Welcome to another video, this time for Final Fantasy XIV. I have been playing this game for the last few months and I have been absolutely loving it. So I thought I'd start making some videos. This first video will be on how to make a really nice clean UI. Basically, we're going to go over how to place our UI so that it works really well in combat scenarios. And we're going to use my UI here as a base. I'm just going to basically show you guys how I have everything set up, and then I'm going to go over a few macros that you can use to make your UI even sexier and more convenient for you to use. So first off, let's go over what I haven't changed, and if we go into the HUD layout here, what I haven't changed is the placement of the MSQ because I feel like it's fine up there in the corner. I haven't changed the time placement. I like that over there in the other corner. This is not relevant information in combat. In fact, I'm pretty sure this goes away when you're in a duty. So that's fine. I haven't moved the chat. Of course, you can move and do whatever you want with the chat. The chat has a few useful settings in it that I want to go over real quick for the UI specifically. There is a UI element here in the center of the screen that cannot be edited that displays error information. So, for example, when you use an ability that isn't ready yet, for example, it'll give a annoying little error sound and say this ability isn't ready yet. And it's particularly annoying if you use um, abilities with macros, like for example my tank macro here, um, because it'll keep trying to use an ability that isn't ready yet. But you can just disable these error messages here and deal with it that way. Other cool chat things is you can actually change the color of chat. So like I really didn't like the Novice Network's base color because it was so muted and kind of like this color green kind of like melded into itself for me. So I went here and you can change the color of the chat. You can also do cool things like you can have specific things make sound. So like I've set it up here so whenever somebody says something in my free company, it'll make a little sound. So I know when my friends are trying to, talk to me. On top of that, so that they don't get drowned in this novice network, I've made a special tab here at the end. I've renamed it to RP, and I've made it so that it only shows important information that my friends will say, like and what people say in battle and what people say in the general area, like in my party, in the alliance. It only shows that here. So it doesn't get drowned in like a novice network and random stuff like this type of stuff like right here. And the novice network in general. Getting into the UI itself, let's go into the HUD layout again and start from the top and go down, right? So up here we have our target. So whenever I target something, this is gonna show up here. So for example, if I target this person here, see it'll show up here. And I've more or less left where it is. I don't really see the point in being able to see the target's HP all the time. That's probably the only thing that my eyes will have to search for information every now and then, like if I need to check if they have a certain debuff or something. But even then, that's usually not that important to know what the target's debuffs are, so I've left that here as well. What is worth talking about here with the target bar, though, is that you can go in here and actually toggle this display target info independently on, and it'll actually turn this one bar into three separate bars that you can move around and resize and do whatever you want with. And this is important because what it allows you to do is it allows you to actually take this target progress bar, which is their cast bar. And what I've done is I've taken that from up here and dragged it to the center of the screen. This is probably the most important change that I could suggest is moving this literally somewhere that you cannot miss. Because if you know the fight beforehand and what all the boss's abilities are called and what mechanic that pertains to, you can know about a mechanic happening before the boss even does it by just seeing what the boss is doing through its cast bar by putting the cast bar somewhere where you literally cannot miss it. On top of that, if you're playing a DPS or a tank class, you can have this cast bar here, and you will know at all times whether or not the target is casting something that is interruptible. If you didn't know, when a target is casting an interruptible ability, there's actually a second like flashing bar around the normal bar that lets you know that that target is interruptible, that cast is interruptible. Continuing on here, I have my focus target bar here. This probably needs to be moved. I haven't moved it yet. The enemy list I have up here. I don't use the enemy list too much, but I have it up here, so it'll kind of drop down this way. And this is about high enough so that it doesn't clash with the alliance lists or the alliance party frames that I have down here. The enemy list can be really useful for quickly selecting targets. Like, let's say you're playing a class like Astrologian or some other class that requires you to dot targets, and like you want to spread those dots around. The enemy list will kind of give you a list of enemies that you can target and apply dots to. The problem with the enemy list, unfortunately, is that it does not show enemies on this list until you've done damage to them, which is a bit of a shame. um, it would be nice if the enemies just appeared here the second they aggroed the tank, but that's not quite how it works. So there's still a little bit of annoyance with targeting and like making sure that you get the right targets for your dots. Unfortunately, you just kind of have to click on their names. But after that, you can just go through this. Like, let's say you've done that and your dots are wearing off and you want to reapply dots, you can just use the enemy list to easily target and apply all your dots. So the enemy list is kind of useful in that regard, but otherwise it's kind of a non-factor. You can even hide it if you wanted to. I'd say it's not that important of a UI element. That's why I have it all the way up here. You'll notice that a core factor about UI placement in any MMO, honestly, if you want a effective UI placement, you kind of want all of this important information all around your character, like very close to your character. And the reason for this is many MMOs, Final Fantasy XIV included, use a AOE like danger zone move out of this system to warn the player to move out of an incoming attack. And if you have all of your information centered around your player's feet, when that AoE gets cast on you, it doesn't matter if you're like looking down here at your rotation or you're looking like over here at what your blood gauge is at, like what your resource bar is at, or if you're looking down here and you're healing, it's very close to your player's feet, your character's feet, so that when you get targeted by these AoEs, you can easily move out, notice and move out, because all of the information that you're referencing is centered around this key point right here. Moving on down, though, we have our party list over here and our alliance lists here. And I have that here because it's nice. I like it over here. You could have it up here, but again, like we want all of the information around this area. And when I'm playing my healer, right? I want my it doesn't come up because I don't have a party, but I want all my information here so I can easily get to the people's names and target them. Like if I have the party bar up here, I constantly have to move all my mouse all the way over here, target something, and then my eyes are also going from like what is available for my cooldowns up here to monitoring my party's information, and then back here again, and then up here again, and back here. There's long amounts of struggle here. Whereas if you have your party bar in this area right here, you're just looking over here basically, and you still have your character nearby, so you can watch if you're in AoEs or not. It's much, much, much nicer in my opinion. Now, if you're not a like a right side brain person like I am, like I have my free space over here, you could always mirror this UI so that the chat is over here instead, and that all of this stuff and the party list is over in this side instead. I'm just kind of more of a right brain dominant person, so I have that stuff over here. And that's why I have my resource bar over here as well. Anyway, let's see here. Moving on. If we go back in here, I have my gauges for all of my classes right here. So directly in the right side area of my character. And then I also have, you can't see it here. Let me change to Black Mage so you guys can see. I have a watch bar here on the left side of my character, right? So I have my element gauge on the right side here, and then I have my hotbar for my and these are what I use this hotbar for is more like reactive skills, like skills that aren't always needed to be used, but like they can proc. Like for example, Black Mage has a passive called Firestarter. And what Firestarter does is it makes it so this Fire 3 and Thunder 3 become instant cast, and you generally want to be able to know when these proc. So if you have like an RNG ability like that, that makes it so like if you use A skill, there's a chance that B skill becomes instant cast. Like this is what this bar is for. I also have like short cooldown stuff like that I don't use very often. Like basically anything you want to watch, you put right here. And then let's see. Continuing on, I have my HP bar here, front and center under my character. This is more important for tanking. You don't really, as you can see here, there's an HP bar above your character as well. So you don't really need this, but you know, it's nice to have, particularly for when you're tanking, just so you can reference it. Dark Knight specifically, because Dark Knight uses MP, and you want to be able to track what your MP's at. Um, any class that uses MP, this is nice to have. I also went in here and made sure like you can go in here and you can use this drop down to scale up. So I scaled the HP up a little bit so I can see it better. It's a little bigger, easier to notice. And what I've done underneath that, or actually let's cover what I've done just above it because you can't see it right now, but I have a bunch of status information here. So this is like I have enfeeblements here, so I know when I'm getting debuffed and by what. And then I've also got my enhancements. So here are all my buffs, and here are my miscellaneous buffs. Things like food, for example. So I'll use food, and my miscellaneous buffs will turn up here. It's worth noting that when you start the game, these do not look. These are not single bars. I've changed them to single bars because I want to see all of my enfeeblements like in a line, right? And I want to see all my buffs in a line that just goes out this way. So what you do to do that is you go in here and you split. You want your split elements into three groups, and then what you want to do here is you want to do left justify 20 by 1 so it turns into single bars that just like will you'll start here and then it'll like stack more and more buffs just going out to the right, and the same with the enfeeblements, right? So it's easier to track that way if you have it set up like that. Just under my HP, I have another watch bar, and this is for less important things. So, like, I put my really important things, like reactive things, like the fire starter for my black mage, you know, reactive stuff, stuff that I need to know about right away. I put in this watch bar here. But stuff that I don't really need to know about right away, I'll put in this watch bar down here. So this is things like my tank mitigation cooldowns, my off GCDs. For the other classes like healer, I'll put my large healing cooldowns here, and my OGCDs as well. And I basically use this more or less to keep track of OGCDs. If you're really new to the game, you could put your OGCs up here as well. It's worth noting that any hotbar, any keybind you set to any hotbar works no matter if it's hidden or not. For example, I have hotbar 4 here, and if I unhide this for you guys, you'll see that I have grit here, my tank stance, and I have like teleport and my mounts and stuff, and I have even like a food key here that isn't working anymore because all my normal quality food's gone. So I have like my F key set up here, and these don't need to be seen. If it doesn't need to be seen, then I can turn it off, and it still works. Like any hotkey you set up, regardless if the bar is visible or not, it still works. So like if I hide that again and I press F2 now, my tank stance will go off anyway. So you don't need a bar to be seen for it to work. Underneath that, I've got 3 bars for my rotation keys. This is my general skills that I use all the time. And it's nice to have these visible as a new player. I've been told that as an advanced player, what you really want to focus on, though, is your character's animations. You kind of want to get used to watching your character and what your character does, and let that tell you what you need to do next, so that an advanced player doesn't necessarily need to see any of this, right? You only need this watch bar for stuff that you need to watch, like maybe your like interject and your stun and stuff. But these low cooldown abilities that you use all the time, you as an advanced player, you should be able to hide all of those. Again, they're still usable, but it makes for a nice clean UI. So you don't need to look at any of that. You just need to look at your character and understand what your character's doing, and that will tell you what to do next. But that's a little advanced, even for me. So I keep my bars visible. So I like, for example, let's say I'm in combat and I'm attacking an enemy, and they do something that requires me to do some kind of mechanic, and I can't remember what my last attack was. I can quickly reference down here what attack I want to do next, right? So like if I forget where I am in my rotation, I mean, as a most classes only have a 3 button rotation. I think the largest single rotation is like Dragoon, goes up to like 5 buttons. So it's not that big of a deal. You should be able to remember no matter what. It's just if you're a new player, you might want to keep these bars visible, at least for the time being. Um, that being said, playing devil's advocate, it might be good to just, learn from the start to track your character's animations instead of looking at this stuff. Because again, all you really need is these watch bars to actually watch the cooldowns of important abilities. You don't really need to be looking down here. A good player will always be looking around this area, right? You want to keep this circle as narrow as possible. You don't want to have to look down here and then look back up and look down here and look back up, right? All right, moving on. We're almost done here. We have the I have my notices here. I haven't moved them. I feel like this is a fine place for notices. You'll notice that my duty bar is cleared and hidden because I feel like it takes up a huge part of the screen and it makes it look really bad. So I've hidden that, and I'll go over that in a bit. Um, what I do have visible still here is my equipment bar because I want to know if my inventory is getting full so that I can empty it and sort it out because the inventory loves to fill really fast in this game, especially if you play it a lot. I have my money here just because it makes me happy to see that I'm a millionaire. And then I have my master bar here, I guess you would call it. I mean, I call this my master bar, but this is like, you can get to everything through this. And not everything is key bound, right? So like my mount and my minions and my companion aren't bound. So I can get through that stuff through this, and like you can get to anything through this, so I feel like it's still worth keeping up. So I've just moved it down here out of the way. If I need to get to something, I can get to it through that. Now, let's go into advanced UI. Let's get a little deeper, right? I have 2 really advanced things to show you for some really cool advanced UI tricks that you can do. The first one is this macro right here. Because your base hotbar has this swapping function, right? So all this does is it takes this base hotbar and it copies off of the other hotbars that you have set up for your current class. And every time you swap, it uses the base hotbar keys and copies that hotbar over. Now this is really useful, especially if you have a extra hotbar that you're not using. You can set up a secondary or even tertiary hotbar that uses these buttons that you've set up on this base hotbar. So uh, the basic example of this that I can give you, and there are many applications to this, but the basic example of this I can give you is, for example, um, here. If I show you guys, I have this hotbar here, hotbar 6, that I'm not using for anything, but I am using it. So what I've done is I've set up another hotbar that basically will overlay this. and then I've hidden it, right? So instead of having this hotbar somewhere with no keybinds, what I've done is I've said, okay, I want hotbar 6 to have these base keybinds on this main bar. And what I've done is I've taken this macro here, and you use this macro hotbar change, and I've it says 6 here, so I want it to change to hotbar 6. So when I hit this macro, it changes to hotbar 6, but it still uses these base keys in this hotbar. What this allows me to do is go into like a quote unquote AoE mode, right? And what I can do with that is I can start doing an AoE rotation. Now, admittedly, Dark Knight is a really bad example of this because Dark Knight only has one AoE button until like level 74 or something ridiculous. It's kind of funny. But if you have a class that has like multiple rotation buttons, you can just hit a hotkey that you set. Mine, I've set like shift spacebar for mine, so where you can just freely switch between an AoE situation and a single target situation. So I have my single target rotation. Let's say 3 more ads run in, I can just hit shift space bar, and now I can switch right to an AoE rotation that uses the same keys as my single target rotation. So it's really like it's a really nice quality of life thing, right? You can use the same keys that you use for your single target rotation for your AoE rotation. You can also set up different keys here. So like for example, I have um, Edge of Darkness here, which is my single target. It's the Dark Knight single target OGCD mana using ability. You also have a different one called Flood of Darkness, and this is the AoE version of that skill, right? So what I've set up is that when I'm in my AoE rotation, I have Flood of Darkness here. But if I go to my single target rotation, it changes to this. And it's the same for like, if you're familiar with Dark Knight, you get like an alternate single target and AoE more powerful ability. And it's the same here. Like I have Blood Spiller here for my single target. And then if I switch, it goes to Quietest for my AoE. So it's really, really cool. I really enjoy this. And you can set this up for multiple HP bars. I don't have or you can set this up for multiple action bars, but I don't have any other action bars, right? I have that one, unfortunately, because my UI is kind of crazy. Like I'm using almost everything. Like I don't have any free bars left. If you are astute, though, you said, hey, what about these 2 bars that are hidden here? And those 2 bars I can't use because of this that I'm going to show you now, which is the coolest thing ever. Check this out. What I have here is a bunch of macros on a bar, right? And these are basically things I use all the time. Like this is a hello macro to be nice. Like you want to say hi to everybody in the party, but you don't want to type anything big out. You can set up a hello macro, and then I have a goodbye macro too, and it's just being polite. Um, and then I have like a food check macro because people forget to eat food all the time, so it's nice to be like, hey guys, make sure to use your food so you get your experience buff. These two particularly are super useful. This one here, and I'll show you guys this, right? This lets you toggle your duty list on and off, which is super cool. So I can press this button and my duty list will come up. I can reference the duty list for whatever I need to know from it. And then after 10 seconds, it'll wait 10 seconds and then it'll turn off. It's great, right? So you don't have this clutter on the right side of your screen all the time. You can just press this button, get the information you need, and then you don't even have to do anything after that. It'll turn off by itself after 10 seconds. This is a great macro right here. Another good macro is, you'll notice I don't have a mini map here. And I don't have a mini map because the base map in this game is 50 times better than the mini map. So if I need a mini map, I'll just press M. It'll open right here. And look, I have a great, huge, nice mini map here that I can zoom in and zoom out as far as I want, right? The other mini map in this game is this one right here. And that's what I have this macro for. This macro is basically, all it does is let me toggle my mini map on and off, right? So I press it, goes off, I press it, comes on. The only reason I need this is because, unfortunately, when you're using a gathering class, like you're out gathering stuff from resource nodes, the base map here does not pick up where the resource nodes are, unfortunately. Only the minimap does that, so I need the minimap for that. The other thing you need the minimap for is, like, if you like fishing, knowing what the weather is really important for catching different types of fish. Also, if you're like hunting special fates or something and you want to know, hey, it's cloudy, but is it like the special weather or is it just cloudy? This is the only place that I know of that you can check what the weather is, as far as I'm aware. So basically, I have this toggle on and off for like whenever I want to check the weather or whenever I want to see where the resource nodes are. But I've been stalling. The coolest thing about this is this right here, and I'm going to show you guys this. You definitely want to set this up. What this does is when I hit this, right, it's going to display hotbar. Like, it's going to basically display this next hotbar. And it's going to wait 7 seconds, and then it's going to turn it off. Like that. So what I'm making here is a folder system, right? You're making a folder where you can make categories of different things, whatever you want, and then you can make a macro to open that to another folder, right? So let me show you guys how this works. So you open this, and I'll open this for 7 seconds, and I'll close it. But what you can do then is, like, for example, I have a dailies weekly macro here. And what you can do is you can take a base class like Pugilist. Like, I've taken Pugilist here, Pugilist 7, and I've said, okay, I want you to copy Pugilist 7, the hotbar from Pugilist hotbar 7 onto hotbar 8. And hotbar 8 is this hotbar right here. So I hit this button and it's going to copy the stuff from Pugilist 7 onto hotbar 8. And here, to show you that visually, just give me a second. Let me change to Pugilist. So if we scroll, yeah, right there, hotbar 7. See, this is hotbar 7, right? So what it's taking, what this AOE, what this macro is doing is it's copying hotbar 7 from this class, and it's going to copy it onto hotbar 8 for me, right? And then it's going to wait 3 seconds. If I don't click anything, it is going to close both the hotbar 8 and hotbar 9. So this is hotbar 9, and this is hotbar 8. So it's taking hotbar 7 here, and it's copying. So when I click this button, it's taking the information from this hotbar, copying it onto this hotbar, and then opening this hotbar. And that's basically what the macro is doing. And you can do this for any hotbar on any of these classes. I use Pugilist, and I suggest that you use a class that's like a base class because you never use it after you unlock the job for it, right? And I'm a level 59 Pugilist, but I'm not a level 59 Pugilist, right? I'm a level 59 Monk. And the Monk and the Pugilist hotbars are different. And on top of that, you don't use all of the hotbars for Pugilist anyway, because like these are all of the actions that Pugilist has. You simply don't need all of the hotbars for Pugilist. So what I've done, like for example here, hotbar 3 in Pugilist, is if you look at this one, I hotbar copy Pugilist 3 onto current hotbar 8. So if I hit this button, it copies hotbar 3 onto hotbar 8 here. And by doing this, you can make like a folder system, and you make this like really cool master hotbar that lets you do all kinds of things. Like for example, I have all of my professions here. So again, it's copying from Pugilist hotbar 4, and it's pasting it on my current hotbar 8. So if we go to 4 here are all my classes, right? And there, and here they are, right? So one thing worth noting though is that if you want to edit this bar, you can't just move things around on that bar, right? So like if I want, for example, let's say I don't like the way that I've set this up. Let's say I want like I want my gathering classes together, right? So I'll move my botanist over here, and then I'll be like, okay, I like that. All right, but that doesn't work. You can't do that because it's going to copy from this hotbar. That's how it works, right? So it's just going to revert. So if you want to change anything on this third hotbar, you need to come back to this class and change these hotbars right here. So for example, if I want my gathering classes all together like this, I need to change it on this hotbar here on Pugilist, right? So change it to this, and then it changes properly. Some other cool things you can do with this is like, along with the professions, you can set up like macros for jobs, job swapping, like I've done here. So in these macros, like I basically set it up so that it uses the jobstone icon, and then it'll change to that gear set, right? That I use for Astrologian, and then it'll do a little cool battle stance thing, and then it will turn off the hotbars, right? So bam. I'll do the cool little band animation. I'm now an Astrologian. Cool way to stop jobs easily, right? I don't have to go in to my gear sets here and change it that way. I just have to go here, and I can change to any of the jobs I want. And I have a little emote thing here that I've set up, so I can do a bunch of like emotes. Whenever I want to be social and do something specific. Um, I think that's it though. I think I showed you guys everything. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope I didn't drag it on a little too long there. I just wanted to make sure I explain everything in detail. If you like this video, remember to give it a like and subscribe, and I will probably be making more videos, so let me know what else you'd like to see. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Elysium, out.